Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching GRAVITAS. I'm Molly Gambhir. Let's get started. Our top story tonight focuses on the latest in West Asia. A lot has happened in the last 24 hours, and for now, an uneasy calm prevails all over again. Israel and Hezbollah have agreed to a ceasefire. That's what a senior U.S. official has told Reuters. And this comes after a major flare-up. Will the ceasefire last? Is the big question. And what lies ahead for the region? Also on the show for you tonight, 4 major plane crashes in the United States in 4 days. What's going on? We get you a detailed report about what's known. A raging storm in America over the origins of COVID-19, an explosive claim. Tulsi Gabbard releasing newly declassified documents that she claims expose links between US-funded research, China's Wuhan Institute of Virology, and the actions of former top American health official, Dr. Anthony Fauci. We are decoding that for you in just a bit. All this and lots more coming up. Hours. That's all it took for West Asia to once again hurtle towards a dangerous phase of uncertainty. A chilling reminder once again of just how precarious the situation in the region is. For now, an uneasy calm prevails. Israel and Hezbollah have agreed to a ceasefire. That is what a senior US official has told Reuters. This comes after a major flare-up as Israel intensified its military campaign in southern Lebanon, raising fears the fragile agreement could unravel before formal negotiations are completed. In fact, talks between the US and Iran were called off today. Iranian officials did not travel as planned to Switzerland, and the US Vice President also cancelled that trip. This came after intense fighting between Israel and Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. Israel's military earlier struck targets in southern and eastern Lebanon overnight. And Hezbollah reported intense fighting. As per an update that came in just a short while back, the Lebanese health ministry saying that Israeli airstrikes and bombardments killed at least 47 people and injured 97 others in Lebanon. The dead, according to them, included at least 7 women and 2 children, while Israel earlier said 4 soldiers died. Remember, the US and the Iranian president basically signed that 14-point MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, earlier to extend the ceasefire, including in Lebanon. And the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah has been, in a way, the most precarious part of that agreement. Before the announcement of the ceasefire, as the situation remained tense on the verge of exploding all over again, Netanyahu even said earlier in the day that the Israeli army will stay in Lebanon as long as necessary and that Israel will make Hezbollah pay, quote-unquote, a heavy price for its soldiers killed. While the Iranian foreign minister earlier in the day accused Israel of wanting a permanent war, following remarks from its far-right national security minister, Itamar Ben-Gvir, saying all of Lebanon must burn after the 4 Israeli soldiers were killed there. So a lot has happened earlier in the day itself. And here's why these developments, along with the latest announcement of that ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah, are extremely significant. For example, according to Iran's Ghalibaf statement earlier, talks with the US are bound by Tehran's red lines. And on Thursday, Israel also published a map showing an expanded military control zone in southern Lebanon and said it would not rule out carrying out attacks beyond it, thereby challenging the terms of that U.S.-Iran pact that, remember, calls for Lebanon's sovereignty to be respected. This happened on Thursday. Remember, the interim pact signed to end the U.S.-Israeli war with Iran calls for an end to fighting on all fronts, including in Lebanon, and for the parties to ensure the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Lebanon. So the question remains, just how far will Netanyahu go? From here onwards, what happens? The spotlight remains on the developments in Lebanon and Iran's allies in the region as well to determine what lies ahead. Will the ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah last? The agreement which the US and Iran signed this week, triggering a 60-day negotiation period for the two to reach a formal peace deal, and the talks were supposed to start in Switzerland today itself. The deal provided a ray of hope for not just West Asia, but for the entire world, given the far-reaching ripple effects of the war so far. Shifting focus, 4 aircraft incidents, 4 days, a wave of aviation headlines across the United States, and the timing raising questions and public concern. But is America facing an aviation crisis? Or is this just a rare cluster of events? Aviation, remember, is built on precision. Millions of flights take off and land safely every year, relying on strict procedures, technology, human decisions. But within just 4 days, 4 major plane crashes and incidents in the United States grabbed global attention and triggered serious concern. And the grim sequence started with a crash of a marine fighter jet, a massive fireball that erupted on a mountain in Yakima County. The pilot parachuted to safety. The next day, 11 passengers and a pilot died when a skydiving aircraft. This accident took place in Missouri, marking one of the deadliest skydiving incidents in decades. The tragedy was quickly followed by the devastating crash of a massive military B-52 Stratofortress bomber during a routine test flight at the Edwards Air Force Base in California, which tragically killed all 8 crew members. In fact, the very next day, a private jet carrying 6 people crashed on a highway in Texas. 1 person was killed. Despite the deeply unsettling timing, federal investigators and aviation experts strongly cautioning against panic. Initial data indicating that these incidents are entirely unrelated, spanning vastly different sectors of aviation, from civilian recreation and private business travel to highly demanding military test programs. And the bigger story here is not just about 4 aircraft incidents in 4 days. It's also a lot about how aviation actually responds when something goes wrong, for example. Every accident investigation leads to improvements historically, from better aircraft design to stronger safety procedures. At least that is what the expectations are. The sky may feel uncertain after a cluster of crashes. The sentiment might be there, but aviation safety is actually measured over years and millions of flights, not just a few days. A fresh political and intelligence storm has erupted in the United States over the origins of COVID-19. Here's what's happened on her final day as the Director of National Intelligence. Tulsi Gabbard released newly declassified documents that she claims exposed the links between US-funded research, China's Wuhan Institute of Virology, and the actions of former top American health official Dr. Anthony Fauci. And the allegations once again reigniting that debate over whether the pandemic may have originated from a laboratory accident. In a statement accompanying the release, she said the COVID-19 pandemic caused tremendous hardship and pain for millions around the world, and that after years of lies, censorship, and cover-ups, quote unquote, the American people deserve transparency, truth, and accountability. In a post on X, she said that on her final day, she was releasing never-before-seen communications and documents that she claims show Fauci directed millions of US taxpayer dollars allegedly towards gain-of-function research at the Wuhan laboratory, alleging that he worked with elements within the intelligence community to suppress information about a possible lab leak and lied allegedly to the Congress under oath in 2024. Listen into what she said.
Today, on my final day as Director of National Intelligence, I'm releasing never-before-seen communications and documents that expose exactly how Fauci worked with politicized career leadership in the intelligence community to suppress the truth about his actions, the virus's lab leak origins, and his role in directing U.S. funding for this dangerous research that caused immeasurable harm and countless lost lives.
Meanwhile, according to her, the declassified material includes internal communications allegedly, also whistleblower allegations and intelligence documents related to the investigations into the pandemic's origins, according to her. She also alleged that some of these communications conflict with Fauci's congressional testimony. Also alleging that while leading the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, Fauci remained engaged with intelligence officials, allegedly. And during key reviews of COVID-19's origins and oversaw funding, allegedly, that supported coronavirus research involving bat viruses at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Remember, Dr. Fauci has repeatedly denied allegations that he misled lawmakers or concealed information. In fact, during a congressional hearing in June 2024, he described such accusations, as quote-unquote preposterous. COVID-19 first emerged in Wuhan, China in late 2019 and went on to claim millions of lives while triggering that unprecedented public health, economic, social crisis upending lives around the world. The question of how the virus originated remains unresolved, though, with scientific and intelligence investigations continuing to examine both natural as well as lab-related scenarios without actually reaching a definitive answer as of now. Last week, Gabbard also released declassified intelligence claiming that the US government backed more than 120 biological laboratories across over 30 countries, including a vast network of facilities in Ukraine. And with Gabbard stepping down as Director of National Intelligence, the US President Donald Trump has appointed the replacement as the acting director.
Tremendous difference. I want to thank. He's a nice man, but he can be nasty. And if you have a chance to make it into the problems.
And even as the G7 summit concluded smoothly with US President Donald Trump adopting a more cooperative tone instead of openly attacking his European allies, Italy is now up in arms. An alleged comment by Trump on the Italian Prime Minister has riled Italy to the extent that its foreign minister called off the US visit. Spain's prime minister also expressed his solidarity with the Italian prime minister. Now, just for context here, it all started with Donald Trump's interview with an Italy-based channel on the sidelines of the G7 summit. Visuals showed the Italian Prime Minister and the US President engaged in conversation, sitting side by side on a small sofa. As you can see in those visuals, Trump, however, reportedly told the channel that he merely indulged the Italian leader by chatting with her. As per the transcript released by the channel, the US president was quoted as saying, I'm quoting, "She begged me to take a picture with her. She wanted a picture with me so badly, I would not have taken it, but I felt sorry for her," quote unquote. And while the channel did not make the audio of this conversation public, the US is yet to confirm this. The Italian Prime Minister, of course, has reacted and now has accused Donald Trump of lying. She expressed surprise at the way in which he treats US allies. Listen in to what she said.
Donald Trump's statements are completely made up. I am frankly astonished. I don't know why the President of the United States behaves like this towards his allies.
And in a rather indirect reference to Trump's public praise for leaders like Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin, the Italian Prime Minister lamented that Trump treats adversaries of the West with a great deal of indulgence.
I can only say it is disappointing that he does not show the same determination with the enemies of the West and of the United States, whose leaders he instead treats with far greater indulgence. There is one thing he should remember: neither I nor Italy ever beg.
Io e l'Italia non imploriamo mai.
In fact, the ripple effects were quite visible. Italy's foreign minister cancelled his visit to America from June 21 to 22. He was supposed to attend an Italy-US business forum in Miami and meet the US Secretary of State as well. Explaining his decision, he said, I'm quoting, "The serious and offensive words of President Trump towards the Prime Minister offend all of Italy." That statement on your screen. And this latest diplomatic diff, by the way, comes even as the Italian leader was a vocal supporter of Donald Trump in a way. She was the lone head of state in the European Union to attend his inauguration ceremony, for example, as US president. However, they have clashed in recent times. For instance, in April, after the Italian Prime Minister dubbed Trump's criticism of Pope over the Iran war as unacceptable, the US president said she lacked courage. Now, this is not the lone European leader, of course, with whom Trump has clashed with. Although the French president laid out the red carpet for the US president by hosting him for a banquet, they have been at loggerheads for quite some time now. While Macron strongly opposed the US forcibly clearing the Strait of Hormuz earlier through a military operation, for example, Trump also slammed France's lack of support for the Iran war earlier. A lot has happened. He also provoked outrage by claiming that Macron's wife treats him extremely badly, quote unquote. The French leader, in turn, made it clear that Trump's comments were neither elegant nor up to standard. And the US leader also has had a turbulent relationship with Germany's leaders. Last year, he heaped criticism of the former German Chancellor, Angela Merkel, for opening up her country to refugees. Similarly, Trump hit out at the incumbent chancellor as well after he castigated the US over the Iran war. Mayors flagged America's lack of an exit strategy and warned how Iran is humiliating it in negotiations. Even neighboring Canada has not been spared from Trump's barbs. Back in 2018, a major controversy broke out after the US refused to endorse the joint G7 statement, with Donald Trump accusing the then Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau of acting meekly and making false statements over tariffs between the two sides. In 2024, he even described Trudeau as a governor. Trump also, riled the present Mark Carney-led government by referring to Canada as America's 51st state. And this also spurred Canada to reduce its reliance on U.S. defense firms for the purchase of fighter jets. Trump's dissatisfaction with his allies over its refusal to actively participate in the Iran war has also resulted in a major rethink on America's approach towards the NATO. Recently, Washington told its allies that it will gradually scale down the number of strategic bombers, fighter jets, drones, submarines, warships to defend the NATO countries. And with the U.S. Secretary of State earlier also announcing NATO 3.0, a 6-month Pentagon review of American forces in Europe, it's apparent that America's ties with Europe are far from sorted. Shifting focus, in the Russia-Ukraine war, the tide is slowly changing. Ukraine has seemingly turned the table. Moscow is burning and Ukraine drones have left behind devastation. Many difficult questions hanging in the air for the Russian leader as well. And the Kremlin acknowledging Ukrainian drone attack on Moscow, saying strikes on Ukraine will continue. Our next story taking a closer look at how the new Ukrainian weaponry is taking the war far beyond the front lines.
The sky over the super-fortified heart of Moscow was supposed to be an impenetrable shield. For years, military planners believed that layers of cutting-edge radar, surface-to-air missiles, and automated anti-aircraft cannons could swat down any threat before it came close. On Thursday, Ukraine revealed a new chapter in air warfare. Coordinated swarms of missile drones punched gaps in Moscow's layered shields and struck deep targets, fuel depots, refineries, logistics hubs. Defense analysts call them missile drones. They travel low and slow enough to slip under high-altitude radars. They fly in groups, some as decoys, others as the strike element. These new Ukrainian weapons behave like small cruise missiles and hit with surgical precision. On Thursday, Ukraine launched its biggest ever drone attack on Moscow, sparking an inferno at a major oil refinery. Ukraine insists its strikes targeting Russia are fair retaliation for attacks on its own civilians. A day later, Russia renewed its strikes on Ukraine. Kharkiv and Odessa were targeted in the latest attack. Ukraine says Russian forces launched several aerial bombs which destroyed 40 private residential buildings and vehicles. Both sides have escalated attacks on each other in recent weeks as U.S.-led talks on ending the more than 4-year conflict remain effectively frozen. Russian President Vladimir Putin has repeatedly rejected an offer from Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky for direct talks, vowing instead to achieve Russia's war aims on the battlefield. Bureau Report, WION World is one.
Shifting focus, let's talk about a term which has a deep connection to the 1971 India-Pakistan war. That year, the Pakistani submarine that sank INS Kukri, it was the first time an Indian Navy warship was sunk in wartime after independence. The operation, in fact, became one of the Pakistan Navy's most celebrated moments. But that did not change the course of the war. Pakistan suffered a crushing defeat, remember. Indian forces dominated on land, in the air, and at sea. The war ended with the liberation of Pakistan, liberation of Bangladesh, and Pakistan's presence in the Bay of Bengal was effectively wiped out. Now, 55 years later, that name is back in the headlines. Pakistan's first Chinese-built Hanko-class submarine arrived in Karachi. The submarine, in fact, was commissioned in China in April. But it is not just a submarine that is drawing attention. It is what a senior Pakistan Navy officer has said about it. Commodore Flareup, who led the flotilla escorting the submarine home, has spoken of a much bigger role. Flareup says this new class will give Pakistan the ability to maintain a presence in the Bay of Bengal. That is a region where Pakistan has had very little naval footprint since 1971. He made these remarks during a stop in Sri Lanka. In fact, he was speaking at an event on board the Pakistani frigate at the Colombo port. According to the Colombo-based publication, The Morning, Flareup described it as a game changer. He also said that Pakistan plans to induct 8 submarines of this class. 8 submarines of this class. That is a major statement because for decades, remember, the Pakistan Navy has been largely limited to the northern Arabian Sea. Just for context, the Bay of Bengal has remained a space where India enjoys clear geographical as well as strategic advantages, to say the least. It is home to India's Eastern Naval Command in Visakhapatnam. It is close to the strategic Andaman and Nicobar Islands. And it carries some of the region's most important trade and energy routes. The Bay of Bengal is also gaining greater importance in the wider Indo-Pacific competition. Its coastal states, including India, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Sri Lanka. And the timing of Flarup's comments is also important here, coming in as Pakistan and Bangladesh are moving closer for decades after the 1971 war. In fact, relations between Dhaka and Islamabad remained strained. But that started to change in a way since the interim government of Mohammad Yunus took charge earlier in Dhaka. Contacts increased. Yunus also met the Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif twice. Pakistan's foreign minister visited Dhaka as well. The ties are expected to strengthen further with the new Tariq Rahman government in Dhaka. Direct Dhaka-Karachi flights, for example, have resumed after decades. The flights are operated. In fact, the trade is also growing. Bilateral trade rose by 27% between August and December of 2024. It also grew by another 20% year on year by December 2025. The two sides have also signed a memorandum of trade agreement. So Commodore Flarup's comments basically are about more than just a new submarine. It also speaks of Pakistan's desire to return to a region it lost after 1971. With 8 new of these submarines planned, at least that's what's being claimed. Pakistan wants to try and have a bigger naval role in the Bay of Bengal, it seems. But Pakistan should not forget that the Indian Navy has expanded considerably over the past 5 decades. It operates nuclear-powered submarines, 2 aircraft carriers, long-range maritime surveillance assets. India also maintaining a strong presence in both the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal. Before we go on, here's a quick look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. What made the Taliban order a ban on smartphones for government officials? We are telling you all that you need to know. A detailed report coming up. The U.S. is building drones to penetrate enemy skies. Will they change how America fights wars? We tell you what is known right now. It's a major deadly leap for bird flu. The numbers are horrifying as the menace continues to wreak havoc. All this and lots more coming up. 10 Downing Street set to witness yet another round of musical chairs. Will the UK get its 5th Prime Minister in a span of 4 years? The scenario is increasingly gaining traction after Labour's Andy Burnham swept the Makerfield parliamentary by-poll in the UK. This by-election, by the way, took place as his aide stepped down last month to enable Burnham to challenge Keir Starmer's leadership. And the scale of the victory of Burnham, who re-entered Parliament after a gap of 9 years, has also become a major talking point. While his predecessor won by over 5,300 votes, he trounced Reform UK's candidate by a margin of 9,231 votes, 9,231. As compared to 2024, for example, Labour's vote share increased by over 9%. But only 2.2% of the electorate reposed trust in the Conservative Party. And as far as Reform UK is concerned, it marginally improved its vote share. Burnham dropped a clear hint about his future plans in his victory speech, terming this win as Labour's final chance to change. He called upon his party to read the people's mood on the ground. Listen to this.
Second chance. But it is a chance now, from this result tonight, to build a new politics based on unity and hope, turning away from the path that takes us to a divided, dark politics of the kind we see in the United States. We must now take this path and put this country back on the right path.
Now, why exactly is this win so significant? Here's the context. The 56-year-old joined the Labour Party as a teenager. In 2001, he first entered the parliament and retained the seat in 2005, 2010, as well as 2015. While he served as a junior minister from 2005 to 2007, he was promoted as the Secretary for Culture, Media and Sport in 2008, when Gordon Brown was the Prime Minister. And a year later, he took charge as the UK's health minister. However, his career took another turn as he was elected as the mayor for Greater Manchester in 2017. And during his 9-year tenure as the mayor, he is perceived to have spearheaded development of Greater Manchester, improved its public transport system, and also addressed the homelessness issue. For championing the cause of the home region, he has been nicknamed King of the North, which is basically a Game of Thrones-inspired title. In a bid to stand out, he projects himself as an amiable politician, preferring T-shirts to a suit and tie. In a bid to also reassure people ahead of his prospective leadership challenge, he gave top advisory roles to 3 top economists even before winning the by-poll. And this included ex-Bank of England chief and former Treasury Minister as well. And this also assumes significance amid Britain's rising fiscal challenges under Starmer. For example, the UK government's difference between expenditure and income from taxes was $30.7 billion in the month of May. And this was the highest recorded figure in the last 6 years. What awaits the UK in the next few days and weeks is the big question now. In the first scenario, Burnham may try to convince Starmer to step down, and if that does not materialize, he can also become a challenger by bagging the support of 20% members of the UK's House of Commons, which amounts to 81 MPs. Apart from that, he should also be backed by 5% of the Labour Party branches or affiliated trade unions. In this election, both party members as well as affiliated trade union supporters are able to vote. It is worth noting here that Burnham ran twice for the Labour Party's leadership in 2010 as well as 2015, but lost on both occasions. Now, Starmer has been under pressure, which is only mounting. Remember, he's been under pressure to quit since the Epstein files fallout. This came after emails released by the U.S. Department of Justice put the spotlight majorly on the deep association, as alleged, between Britain's ex-envoy to the US, Peter Mandelson, and the convicted sex offender, Jeffrey Epstein. In fact, the woes worsened in the month of May after the Labour suffered heavy losses in the local body elections, with the party losing more than 1,000 municipal seats, even as his government has been rocked by a series of resignations by top ministers, such as Wes Streeting and John Healey. In fact, Starmer has ruled out the possibility of resigning. In fact, he vowed to fight it out. Even Burnham mounts a leadership challenge.
It's a contest, just to be clear with you, then yes, I will run, I will stand, and I've said repeatedly, I'm not going to walk away from that.
However, the public mood is increasingly in favour of his ouster, it seems. Let's tell you about the latest Ipsos poll. It surveyed 1,142 adults across the UK. Over half of the respondents called on Starmer to step down immediately. They wanted him to resign immediately. On the other hand, Andy Burnham emerging as the most popular contender to replace Starmer, indicating dissatisfaction with the government, basically. 23% people demanded a new general election to be held.
Andy Burnham would like to be the man to replace him. Whether he's everyone's cup of tea, I don't know, but I think there's a strong possibility, yes.
Meanwhile, Starmer has downplayed, or at least tried to downplay, any immediate leadership challenge, and even hinted at offering Burnham a key cabinet portfolio. But then, with that growing demand within the party for his resignation, it seems to be clear that the UK leader faces a fierce test ahead. Shifting focus now, Israel is also fighting a battle far beyond West Asia. It's reportedly now spending millions of dollars to try and repair its image in the United States. As support for the country slips sharply, even among conservative Americans who have traditionally stood firmly behind it, according to an Israeli newspaper, Haaretz, the Israeli government is pouring unprecedented amounts of money into an influence campaign aimed at reshaping public opinion and defending its military actions. According to Haaretz, the Israeli government has expanded its influence operation in the United States to more than $40 million, nearly 3 times its original budget. Nearly 3 times the original. In fact, the campaign, reportedly launched late last year, now focuses heavily on justifying Israel's war in Iran and countering accusations that Netanyahu dragged Washington into another conflict. According to the report, documents filed with the U.S. Justice Department showing that Israel has also signed a nearly $1 million contract with a New York production company to create pro-Israel digital content. Earlier reports by Haaretz also said multi-million-dollar agreements with American media and content firms targeting Christian conservatives. One key contract reportedly went to a public relations firm owned by a strategist who managed U.S. President Donald Trump's digital campaigns in 2016 and 2020. The newspaper also reported that the firm has built networks of websites carrying pro-Israel and anti-Palestinian narratives while presenting themselves as neutral information platforms. Their stated goal reportedly was to influence search engine results and responses generated by AI chatbots. The Israeli government's push coming at a time when Israel's popularity in America continues to decline. According to an April survey by Pew Research Center, 60% of Americans now hold an unfavorable view of Israel. That's, by the way, up from 53% last year and 42% in 2022. Confidence in Netanyahu has also eroded. Nearly 60% of Americans saying they do not trust Netanyahu's judgment in international affairs, compared with 52% last year and 42% in 2023. The issue has also exposed differences within the Trump camp. The U.S. Vice President publicly criticized members of Netanyahu's cabinet for attacking Trump over the Iran agreement. Listen to this.
And this does bother me, is that you've seen people within Bibi's cabinet who have come out and attacked the deal. If I was in the cabinet of the Israeli government, I might not be attacking the only powerful ally that I have anywhere left in the entire world.
Trump himself has had an increasingly strained relationship with Netanyahu, especially in recent weeks. In the latest, while saying that he will most likely endorse Netanyahu in Israel's upcoming elections, Trump also said that he wants to see who else enters the race before making a final decision. America studied and reverse engineered Iran's infamous Shahed drones and introduced it during the Iran war for the first time, reportedly. And now one of the world's most powerful military appears to be embracing a lesson from Tehran's playbook. Warfare, it seems, no longer belongs only to expensive fighter jets and elite pilots. The future could actually belong to autonomous drones that fly beside manned aircraft, designed similar to aircraft, and can enter the most dangerous airspace first and, if necessary, even sacrifice themselves. According to a Wall Street Journal report, the United States Air Force has signed agreements with 2 defense companies to build a new generation of autonomous combat drones. These aircraft reportedly are part of a program called Collaborative Combat Aircraft. The idea is quite simple. Let's break it down. Instead of sending human pilots alone into heavily defended skies protected by enemy missile systems, the US basically wants unmanned aircraft to fly forward like loyal wingmen. These drones will accompany fighter jets, scout enemy positions, scan the skies for enemy aircraft, and help launch attacks deep inside enemy territory. Not just that, they're also being designed to operate in airspace filled with surface-to-air missile systems, going where the risk to human pilots is considered high. Unlike traditional drones that require remote operators, these aircraft will fly with limited human control and make many decisions on their own. The strategy reportedly reflecting a major shift in military thinking. Cheap, expendable drones have transformed battlefields from Ukraine to West Asia, for example. Iranian-made Shahed drones designed as one-way attack weapons have basically demonstrated just how low-cost unmanned systems can actually inflict significant damage on military targets. America studied those lessons closely, it seems, and used reverse engineering Shaheds against Iran, for example. Now Washington wants to apply the same principle, it seems, at a much higher technological level. And this has far-reaching implications. As per the WSJ report, the US Air Force plans to buy around 150 of these drones by the end of this decade and eventually build a fleet of nearly 1,000 aircraft. Cost is another crucial factor here, of course. The military wants these drones to cost only about 1/3 of a manned fighter jet. And that perhaps raises a whole new question as far as future wars and conflicts are concerned. If these autonomous wingmen, in a way, are significantly cheaper as compared to advanced fighter aircraft, could commanders treat them as assets that can actually be risked or even sacrificed to protect human pilots and achieve the mission objectives? and their role may not stop at escort missions as such. US military planners reportedly see these drones evolving beyond air-to-air combat into ground attack and other strike operations as well, giving the commanders a flexible, unmanned force capable of performing multiple missions. So the new doctrine is perhaps becoming more and more clear. In tomorrow's wars, the first aircraft entering hostile skies may not carry a human pilot at all. This could be a game changer. They may be autonomous wingmen flying ahead, locating threats, drawing enemy fire, and allowing manned fighters to strike from behind. Indian tech stocks faced weakness again this week after global tech services giant Accenture reportedly lowered its revenue growth outlook. The results from the firm raised fresh concerns about demand prospects for the global information technology sector. Shares of leading Indian tech companies came under significant selling pressure following Accenture's latest earnings update. Infosys, for example, was among the worst performers, falling more than 7% intraday, while Tata Consultancy Services declined over 5% before recovering some losses. The broader Nifty IT index dropped around 5% meanwhile, reflecting widespread weakness across the sector. And the thing is, investor sentiment was also hit after Accenture revised its revenue growth guidance for the financial year ending August 2026. The company now expects revenue growth of 3% to 4%, as compared with its earlier forecast of 4% to 5%. The weaker outlook raised concerns that global technology spending remains under pressure, which could also affect outsourcing demand for Indian tech firms that derive a substantial portion of their business from overseas markets. So that's the implication. And market experts and analysts believe the outlook for the Indian tech sector remains challenging in the near term. According to their assessment, the industry is facing multiple headwinds, including uncertainty in the global economic environment. The growing impact of AI on traditional business models and increasing competition within the technology services space. Analysts further indicate that macroeconomic uncertainty is making it difficult for technology firms to secure large discretionary spending commitments from the clients. Businesses across key markets are reportedly continuing to exercise caution in their technology budgets, which could also perhaps delay new projects, for example, and reduce the pace of contract wins, perhaps. Brokerage firms remain cautious, reportedly, on the sector. They note that valuations for many Indian tech firms still reflect expectations of stronger earnings growth. While demand trends remain uncertain, as a result, investors are likely to remain sensitive to any signs of slowing growth from the global tech companies. Shifting focus for now, a remote island in the Southern Ocean, untouched, isolated for generations, has become the center of a whole new wildlife crisis. A virus that once spread mainly among birds has crossed into a new environment, raising serious concern. Thousands of seal pups have become victims of a changing disease landscape. Our next report getting you the complete story.
Fearsomely wild, uninhabited by humans, and surrounded by the freezing waters of the Southern Ocean, Australia's World Heritage listed Heard Island is a pristine paradise. Located 4,000 kilometers southwest of Perth, this subantarctic volcanic outcrop has long served as a safe haven for over 1 million breeding seabirds and marine mammals. It is a landscape defined by extreme isolation, where nature has thrived undisturbed for millennia. But when researchers from the Australian Antarctic program stepped onto the grey volcanic beaches, the pristine silence was broken by a scene of absolute devastation. This remote ecosystem has witnessed one of the largest wildlife losses linked to bird flu. More than 13,000 southern elephant seal pups have died after a highly pathogenic strain of avian influenza spread through the colony. The virus behind the outbreak is H5N1, a strain that has caused major outbreaks among wild birds and poultry around the world. But scientists are now watching a different concern. The virus is showing its ability to jump between species. The movement of viruses between animals is not new. Many viruses naturally circulate in wildlife, but when a virus crosses from one species into another, scientists pay close attention because new hosts can create new opportunities for spread and adaptation. In this case, researchers believe the virus reached marine mammals after circulating among infected birds. The seals, especially vulnerable young pups gathered in large colonies, became exposed in an environment where close contact helped transmission. Southern elephant seals are among the largest seals on Earth. They travel vast distances through the oceans, making their health important not only for one island, but for understanding how diseases can move through marine ecosystems. Scientists say the outbreak is a warning sign, but not a reason for panic. There is currently no evidence suggesting this event represents a widespread threat to humans. Instead, it highlights how interconnected wildlife systems have become.
Our next story is about dad jokes. Love them, hate them. There's no running away from them. In case this is a new term for you, without actually cracking a dad joke, let me just tell you what they are about, even though it's very tempting to crack one right now. Simply put, dad jokes are simple, pun-filled jokes. Some might cringe upon hearing them, some might get amused, some might ignore them. But now research suggests that humor can help strengthen bonds between fathers and children and create positive social connections, of course. A psychologist, Paul Sylvia, studied thousands of dad jokes and found that the most successful ones often rely on three techniques, basically. Puns, basically wordplay, literal interpretations of common phrases, and humor where an expected answer is replaced with an overly literal one. Dad jokes basically may actually serve as a very useful tool in family relationships and bonding. The analysis reportedly found that question and answer jokes tend to be especially popular. People also connected with jokes involving family members or animals, for example. While jokes about politics, religion, war were generally less appealing, reportedly. And humor, of course, matters psychologically a lot. Humor can improve emotional well-being, reduce stress, help people view situations from a different perspective. Even when a joke is not exactly funny, it can also create a feeling of enjoyment or connection and provide much needed relief. And dad jokes may be particularly useful for that because they create playful interactions between parents and children and help strengthen that bond. So while dad jokes may often be cheesy or predictable according to you, their real value may be in bringing people together and strengthening relationships through shared laughter and playfulness. Shifting focus now, Switzerland's player announcing himself at the world stage. The 20-year-old scored a brace after coming off the bench against Bosnia and is, of course, attracting a lot of interest from football's biggest clubs now. At just 20 years and 247 days old, the Swiss midfielder just etched his name into the history books, becoming the youngest player ever to score twice after coming off the bench in a men's World Cup match. Let's get you his story. He was born in 2005 in Geneva to an Angolan mother and Congolese father. He impressed in the German Bundesliga last season and played a major role in the run to the Europa League final, where they basically lost to Aston Villa. He was named the Europa League Young Player of the Season for 2025 to 26. And now Premier League clubs are watching closely, and his stock is also skyrocketing. He was the absolute catalyst for Switzerland's late surge in Los Angeles. And after a performance like that, he is making a major push for a place in the starting 11 for Switzerland's last group game against Canada. And on that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas tonight. This is me, Molly Kampi, signing off. Thanks very much for watching. Have a good weekend.
Campaigns, elections, alliances, controversies, and power play. Stories that analyze global and domestic politics. A dedicated show with varied perspectives, expert take, citizens' voices, detailed ground reports, and in-depth coverage from political corridors of the world. This is Race to Power, only on WION.
As South Korea's entertainment industry witnesses a massive boom, we look at how webtoons continue to inspire shows and films. Know all about the actors who have made controversial exits from films. And meet the team of Rock as they discuss the brutal 1978 kidnapping and murder case. All this and much more with me, Rhythm Sharma, on WION E-Club at these times.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Get the latest updates. Breaking news. Credible, clear, continuous. Experts across aisles. Diverse voices, one platform. WION World is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
The Israeli drone is above our heads all the time in Lebanon. Around 169 buildings have been totally reduced to rubble. Every time there's a warning, they just come to this public area where there are around 200 tents, and they reside for a while, and then they go back to their home. Some of the Lebanese people enjoying their time, celebrating, singing, dancing, and some others forcibly displaced. From the southern suburb of Beirut, I'm Radi Francis for WION World is One.
In-depth coverage of global issues broken down into facts, figures, and simple words.